Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and thank you very much for finding time to join us this evening. We know it was a long day, so we're very happy that you accepted our invitation. My name is Katarzyna Barczyńska, and I represent Pearson ELT, and this is Andrew Kahn.
Yes, my name's Andrew Kahn. I'm from the London office, dealing mainly with language tests, and I'd really like to echo Kasia when she says thank you for coming. For me, it's a great pleasure to be here in Łódź and to meet so many of the wonderful teachers that make Poland such a fantastic place to do business when you're working with English language. You laugh, but it's true, honestly. So many passionate, dedicated, and talented teachers. You may have noticed that we do have drinks in slightly unusual colours today. And this is Kasia's brainwave.
No, it's not mine.
Not
no,
yours?
It's my team.
Okay,
No.
your team
I'm
then?
just stupid
Okay.
for that, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, the reason they are slightly unusual is that the colours match the branding of the language tests that we offer. So we have green, a green drink for young learners, an orange drink for general, and a blue drink for the London Chamber of Commerce international qualifications. So just something to remember when you're drinking. We do have a wonderful evening of music for you today, two very talented musicians. I'd like to present Mr. Steve Bingham first.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In this show, Jeremy Harmer does all the talking. And so this is my only chance to say anything. So I hope you have a good evening. That's it from me.
Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when its alteration finds or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. Uninvited, the thought of you stayed too late in my head. So I went to bed, dreaming you hard, hard. Woke with your name like tears, soft salt on my lips, the sound of its bright syllables like a charm, like a spell. Falling in love is glamorous hell, the crouched, parched heart like a tiger ready to kill, a flame's fierce licks under the skin. Into my life, larger than life, beautiful, you strolled in. I hid in my ordinary days, in my camouflage rooms, in my long grass of routine. You sprawled in my gaze, staring back from anyone's face, from the shape of a cloud, from the pining earth-struck moon which gapes at me as I open the bedroom door. The curtains stir. There you are, on the bed, like a gift, like a touchable dream. The sun has burst the sky because I love you, and the river its banks. The sea laps the great rocks because I love you, and takes no heed of the moon, dragging it away and saying coldly, constancy is not for you. The blackbird fills the air because I love you, with spring and lawns and shadows on lawns. The people walk in the street and laugh, I love you. And far down the river, ships sound their hooters, crazy with joy because I love you. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with a passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with the love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and can I echo Catherine Andrews' welcoming words to you. Thank you so much for coming. I think I better tell you something about what we're doing. I'm a viola player, but not a very good one. However, I am allowed to play in an orchestra, an amateur orchestra, and you have to audition for it and stuff, and they allow me to sit in the back and sort of do okay. Now, our orchestra has two professionals in it. A lot of the people who sit in the orchestra are themselves music teachers and things like that, but there are two professionals. One is our conductor, internationally known conductor. And the other person we have as a professional is the leader of the orchestra. This is the #1 banana player, the #1 violin, what the Americans call concertmaster. And a few years ago, we were looking for a new leader because our leader left. And a number of people came along to audition week after week. And we tried this one. No. We tried this one. No, not really. And this one. And then one evening, along came this guy. And he sat in the leader's chair. Everyone said, hello, hello, hello. And we were playing away. And in the middle of the piece we were playing, there suddenly was a violin solo for the leader. And it was so beautiful that everyone almost stopped playing. And the leader was Steve. And he is now the leader of the Cambridge Philharmonic Orchestra. I must just say, he's not only the leader of the Cambridge Philharmonic Orchestra, he's also the conductor of the Ely Symphonia. And the reason why we're going to run away first thing tomorrow morning is that he's conducting a big concert in Ely Cathedral tomorrow night. However, the point of this story is that if you're in an amateur orchestras only exist for one reason, and that's to go to the pub after the rehearsal. So every Monday we go to a pub. We were there on Monday, weren't we? We go to a pub called The Castle in Cambridge, which is where I live and we go. And over the weeks and months, Steve and I started talking, and we got to know each other, and we liked each other. And then I went to one or two of his solo concerts. And so we continued to talk, and we kept thinking, wouldn't it be great to work together? And I said, Steve, I could play the viola with you. And he said, no. So then we thought, well, what else could we do? And in the end, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could do something words and music, some kind of words and music kind of thing? And after we talked about that for a bit, we started thinking that poetry and music would be rather a good idea. So on one particular afternoon, Steve collected a lot of music, and I collected a lot of poems. The theme I chose was love. Why? Because there are more poems written about love than almost anything else. Steve came along with a whole pile of music, and his computer, and his pedals, and his funny things that he presses. And I'd never realized something before. I don't know whether you saw it, but every single note that Steve plays tonight, except for the very last thing, but every other single note he plays is live. There is nothing pre-recorded, not a single note. So what you just saw in Pachelbel's canon is a line of melody played, and then he does something weird with his foot to record the line of melody, and then he plays over that melody to create two melodies, and then he plays click something else, and then click something else, and then sometimes he goes click to take that line out. I don't know how he does it. It's incredibly complicated. I couldn't dream of doing it. Did he say something? And what he does is called looping the sounds around. So it's looping. So on this particular afternoon, I read poems, and he played something, and he played something, and I read poems. And in one particular moment, which I'll tell you about a bit later, we did a poem and some music together. And when it was all over, we just went, wow. Because it seemed that the music and the poetry had done something to each other. The poetry changed the music, or the music changed the poetry, or something like that. And we decided to put together this show. We called it Touchable Dreams because of that line. Do you remember in the poem? The curtains stir, there you are on the bed, like a gift, like a touchable dream. And it's such a beautiful image that that's what we've called it. Now, Steve, of course, has a life outside the work we do together, and composers write music for him especially. And they especially write music for him using this looping technique because he's a bit of a master at it. And one particular composer is a man called Andrew Keeling. And he wrote a piece for Steve called You Cut the String, which builds and takes away these loops of music. And we decided that it would go rather well with a poem by W.H. Auden called Lullaby. W.H. Auden? Of course, if you've seen Four Weddings and a Funeral, you'll know the poem by W.H. Auden, Stop All the Clocks, that poem. This is a poem by W.H. Auden called Lullaby. The music is called You Cut the String by Andrew Keeling. Lay your sleeping head, my love, human on my faithless arm. Time and fevers burn away individual beauty from thoughtful children, and the grave proves the child ephemeral. But in my arms, till break of day, let the living creature lie, mortal, guilty, but to me, the entirely beautiful. Soul and body have no bounds. To lovers as they lie upon her tolerant enchanted slope, in their ordinary swoon, grave the vision Venus sends of supernatural sympathy, universal love and hope, while an abstract insight wakes among the glaciers and the rocks, the hermit's sensual ecstasy. Certainty, fidelity on the stroke of midnight pass like vibrations of a bell, and fashionable madmen raise their pedantic, boring cry, every farthing of the cost all the dreaded cards foretell shall be paid. But from this night, not a thought, not a kiss, nor look be lost. Beauty, midnight, vision dies. Let the winds of dawn that blow softly round your dreaming head such a day of sweetness show, I, a knocking heart may bless, find the mortal world enough. Noons of dryness see you fed by the involuntary powers. Nights of insult let you pass, watched by every human love. Lay your sleeping head, my love, human on my faithless arm. Time and fevers burn away individual beauty from thoughtful children, and the grave proves the child ephemeral. But in my arms, till break of day, let the living creature lie, mortal, guilty, but to me, the entirely beautiful. I ask you, how can you maintain there is no life or feeling in a stone? I have this flint in my hand. Look, in 2 bits. It might be a heart that broke. I visited the place where we last met. Nothing was changed. The gardens were well tended. The fountains sprayed their usual steady jet. There was no sign that anything had ended, and nothing to instruct me to forget. The thoughtless birds that shook out the trees, singing in ecstasy I could not share, played cunning in my thoughts. Surely in these pleasures there could not be pain to bear, or any discord shake the level breeze. It was because the place was just the same that made your absence such a savage force. For under all the gentleness there came an earthquake tremor. Fountain, birds and grass were shaken by my thinking of your name. We fall to the earth like leaves, our lives as brief as footprints in the snow. No words express the grief we feel. I feel I cannot let her go, for she is everywhere, walking on the windswept beach, talking in the sunlit square, next to me in the car. I see her sitting there. At night, she dreams me. And in the morning, the sun does not rise. My life is as thin as the wind, and I am done with counting stars. She is gone. She is gone. I am her sad music, and I play on and on and on. One of the things we didn't do and we forgot to do is to provide you with what you should have had, which is a handout. And you know what it is when teachers forget their handouts. It's awful, isn't it? And so I'm deeply sorry about that. The reason I'm sorry about it is you have absolutely no idea how long this is going to go on for. Do you? Can I just say that a performance of this normally takes about 63 minutes, something like that. Maybe a little more. And we're moving on. That last sequence of poems we called A Heart That Broke, because love is not just about the happy stuff, it's about the sad stuff too. We're just going to, all cultures and countries, Poland, Britain, Spain, France, Russia, Germany, everyone has their national heroes that they refer to in times of crisis and things like that. And I don't know who your national heroes are, but if this was a proper class, I'd ask you. But it's a performance, so I'm not going to, okay? Right, so we have a national hero in the UK as well. The only difference between our national hero and your national hero is ours never existed. But he's called King Arthur. And we love him because he had a round table and lots of very valiant knights. And his knights used to go around the country saving virgins and dragons and things like that, and being very, very good people. And they all worked at the court of King Arthur. King Arthur, you may recall, was a very fine person, and he was married to a beautiful woman called Queen Guinevere. And she was one of the most beautiful women in the world. So everything should have been perfect. Except for the problem, you see, that there were 3 in that marriage. To use a line that you may be familiar with. Because Guinevere not only loved Arthur, and she did love him, but she also loved Sir Lancelot, who was the kind of Brad Pitt figure at court. He was just the best thing ever. And Sir Lancelot was very good at running around saving virgins and killing dragons and things like that. But in one particular incident, which was written about by poets and stuff like that, Sir Lancelot had been going around saving virgins and killing dragons, and in the fight had got really badly wounded. And he stopped at a house where they made him better again, and they cured him. And the person who did it especially was a beautiful young girl who is called variously the Lady of Shalott, or, as in this case, the Fair Maid of Astolat. Now, our great poet, Alfred Lord Tennyson, wrote a poem about it called The Lady of Shalott. And the poem goes on for hours. I decided to write a song about it, and you will be pleased to hear it lasts for about 2 minutes and 59 seconds. One morning she was sitting, weaving at her loom, when a knight came a-riding, sore wounded by a grievous wound. And they helped him from his horse, and they laid him on a bed, and for many weeks that followed, she nursed him back from the dead. But she never had a lover, and she never was a wife. She was a spotless maiden on the day she lost her life. And while she was healing him, she looked upon his face, and some corner of her heart was touched by the beauty of his grace. And when it came to leaving, it was like lightning from the sky, for she loved him strong and dearly with a pain that made her cry. But she never had a lover, and she never was a wife. She was a spotless maiden on the day she lost her life. And she asked him, will you marry me and take me to wife? Or can I be your lover for some part of your life? And he answered, dear, you may not, however it may seem, for my heart's already given to Lady Guinevere, my queen. But she never had a lover, and she never was a wife. She was a spotless maiden on the day she lost her life. And when he had left her, she could only weep and sigh, and the agony she had from this caused her to weaken and to die. And they placed her on a barge, covered over black as coal, and the beauty of her dead face filled the heart of every soul. But she never had a lover, and she never was a wife. She was a spotless maiden on the day she lost her life. And a note that she bore with her said, I go to God above, and you all here bear witness that I died for true love. That's very kind of you, though I'm getting a bit worried that any second now you're all going to commit suicide or something. It's been rather sad, hasn't it? All these terrible stories. So we thought we'd change the mood a little bit, if that's all right with you, and we want to do a little investigation. And our investigation is to try and find out what poetry means. When is a poem, and when is a poem not a poem? And when is not a poem, and well, you get what we're talking about. So this little next experiment is an experiment to see when is a poem not a poem? Or rather, when is a poem a poem? There's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. And nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. All you need is love. Love is all you need. Nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. Nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. Who knows how long I've loved you? You know I love you still. Will I wait a lonely lifetime? If you want me to, I will. If I ever saw you, I didn't catch your name, but it never really mattered. I will always feel the same. Love you forever and forever. Love you with all my heart. Love you whenever we're together. Love you when we're apart. And when at last I find you, your song will fill the air. Sing it loud so I can hear you. Make it easy to be near you. For the things you do endear you to me. Oh, you know, I will. I will. Here I stand, head in hand, turn my face to the wall. If she's gone, I can't go on, feeling 2 foot small. Everywhere people stare at me each and every day, I can see them laugh at me, and I hear them say, hey, you've got to hide your love away. How can I even try? I can never win, hearing them, seeing them in the state I'm in. How could she say to me, love will find a way? Gather round, all you clowns, let me hear you say, hey, you've got to hide your love away. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. I said something wrong? Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday. Love was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. All you need is love? Love is all you need? Every time the phone rings, I think it might be her. She needs my old, familiar company. But it's always someone else. Wait, that's not terminal. Some of them are people who I want to talk to and who tempt me with activities or bludgeon me with work. Some I love. But every time the phone rings, I think it might be her. She misses me like I miss her. Imagination. I imagine hearing what she did. I imagine telling her my news. The day is moving on already. There's work and meetings, films to watch and plays to see, admirers sending emails to offer Allah's comfort, or, I'm ecumenical, the blessings all divine, and books to read and family and so much work I don't know how to think. So there. But every time the phone rings, I think it might be her. By the time you swear you're his, shivering and sighing, and he vows his passion is infinite, undying. Lady, make a note of this. One of you is lying. She wore a new terracotta dress, and we stayed because of the pelting storm within the handsome's dry recess, though the horse had stopped. Yea, motionless we sat on, snug and warm. Then the downpour ceased, to my sad, sharp pain, and the glass that had screened our forms before flew up, and out she sprang to her door. I should have kissed her if the rain had lasted a minute more. It occurs to me that you don't know who wrote all these poems, and I'm really sorry about that, but what we will do is that anyone who is here tonight and wants to know, Pearson will have all the list of what we've done, and you can find the poems there. And almost all of them you can easily find on the internet. So, for example, the first poem is Shakespeare, of course. The second poem is by Carol Ann Duffy, Touchable Day You Lie on the Bed Like a Gift, Like a Touchable Dream. She's our poet laureate at the moment, our #1 poet in Britain. We've had poems by W.H. Auden, as I've said. The 3 sad poems were by Andrew Motion. I ask you, how can you say there's no one? By Elizabeth Jennings, and the sad music poem is by Roger McGough. The investigation, well, you know who those are by. Then we've just read you poems by me, and that's the one about the phone call. Poems by Dorothy Parker, and that last one was by Thomas Hardy, the famous Thomas Hardy. This is another of my poems in which I desperately try and tell the story of a complete love affair from beginning to end in 10 lines. And shall we do it? It's called Knocking and Pulling. I knock on the door. She pulls me in. I stay not long enough. She dreams of love. I knock on the door. She lets me in. I stay far too long. She turns me out. I knock on the door again. She allows me in, reluctantly. I walk in far too far. She turns me out. I knock on the door again and again. She denies me entry. I stumble in, push past her. She turns me out. Again, she turns me out. All this knocking and pulling and turning out. Hey, carpenter, make me a coffin, a small coffin of perfumed wood. Our dream just died. We're moving nearer the home straight now. We're getting close to the end. We've got a 7-minute sequence coming up, and then a few more little poems and one very small little song. Just so you, this isn't going to go on all night. It's okay. Anyway, the next little sequence we want to do, I mean, what's the point of love, actually? What is the point of love? Well, it's marriage. This next sequence is a little sequence we've done about marriage. And it's got a number of poems in it. They include a poem called A House of Stone by Carmen Bugan, a poem called Third Night of the Honeymoon by Jean Sprackland, a poem by Denise Levertov called The Ache of the Ark of It. I'm sorry, The Ark of the Ache of It. A poem called A Night Rose by Andrew Grieg, a poem called Quartet by Tim Cunningham, thank you, and finally a very famous poem by W.B. Yeats, which you may recognize. Steve's music? Well, I think I'll leave you to discover it, actually. Don't you think that's a good idea? Here we go. In the village where I was born, we wish a house of stone to shelter the heart of the marriage. So here too, I wish you obstinate, strong love, unending and unyielding. May you be in reach of each other when all seems lost. May your tears and your smiles happen always face to face. When you imagine that you have shared everything, may you know that you still have the rest of your lives to do all of it again and again. But now, listen to the hurry of bells and look how petals of roses about the vineyard bring you the words husband and wife, first words in your house of stone. She gets up before he wakes, finds her dress inside out on the floor, puts on plastic shoes and goes down to the sea. Sex has emptied her, she's forgetting to eat. Salt cold rinses her sleek and girlish again, raises bumps on her hair trigger skin. She jumps the waves, pulling faces because no one's watching her. The water licks and smacks, and it happens quick as the word yes. The wedding band's tugged over the knuckle and off. She pulls up bunches of water, but really she knows it's gone, glinting like a trick somewhere down there in the shift and tangle of deep life. Later he'll kiss the thin white place, say, never mind, I'll buy you another. For now, she's properly naked at last. The ache of marriage, thigh and tongue, beloved, are heavy with it. It throbs in the teeth. We look for communion and are turned away, beloved, each and each. It is Leviathan and we in its belly, looking for joy, some joy not to be known outside it, 2 by 2, in the ark of the ache of it. When her moment came in the deep of night, she reached out and handed it to me. A night rose, black and radiant as the center of an eye. You've no idea how rare. It rests now on an unreachable shelf. I think we put it there. From time to time, she writes, she's felt another petal fall. She would not have me say where. Petal for petal, magic and loss. Let them for once weigh exactly the same with us. Sometimes the music stops. Sometimes Daddy's mind is resting on the restless heaving of his secretary's blouse. But she knows when a heart is cemented in the corner of a house. Sometimes the music stops. Sometimes Mummy's hope is to break from the moorings of the kitchen sink. But love is a weighty anchor, and nothing severs the umbilical rope. Sometimes the music stops. Sometimes Junior's tongue is a flame to set the world on fire. But they praise his poems and tie him with daisy chains. Sometimes the music stops. Sometimes Sis escapes her schoolgirl wrapping and dances to Svengali lights. But her spotlight is a moonbeam on ordinary nights. Sometimes the music stops, but mostly they accept the score and play the harmonies that exorcise the demons at the door. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. And you will recognize the tune, of course, won't you? Do you recognize where that tune comes from? It's called Martyr's Dance by Bill Whelan and was used famously in the River Dance show. I told you, and we always do this one near the end, I told you that Steve came round to my flat one afternoon, and there was a moment when we suddenly thought it was worth doing this. And this is the moment. I hope you'll agree with this. This is a poem by the same poet laureate, Carol Ann Duffy, from the most beautiful collection of poems called Rapture, which is all about a love affair she had. And this particular poem is about the not-so-good part of it, about rowing, about having a row. The music that Steve's going to play is?
It's called The Image of Melancholy by a German composer called Max Beckschäfer.
And what we think is special about this is that Steve hasn't changed a single note, and I haven't changed a single word. How could I? And yet, somehow, well, you'll see. But when we rowed, the room swayed and sank down to its knees. The air hurt and purpled like a bruise. The sun banged the gate shut and fled. But when we rowed, the trees wept and threw away their leaves. The day ripped the hours from our lives. The sheets and pillows shredded themselves on the bed. But when we rowed, our mouths knew no kiss, no kiss. Our hearts were jagged stones in our fist. The garden sprouted bones grown from the dead. But when we rowed, your face blanked like a page erased of words. My hands squeezed themselves, burned like verbs. Love turned and ran and cowered in our heads. It may not always be so. And I say that if your lips, which I have loved, should touch another's, and your dear strong fingers clutch his heart as mine, in time not far away, if on another's face your sweet hair lay in such silence as I know, or such great writhing words as uttering overmuch stand helplessly before the spirit at bay, if this should be, I say, if this should be, you of my heart, send me a little word, that I may go on to him and take his hands, saying, accept all happiness from me. Then shall I turn my face and hear one bird sing terribly afar in the lost land. But the art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch. And look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them. But it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love. I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster.
I forgot that there was one other time when I get to speak. Which is while Jeremy has to retune his guitar to a different tuning. It's something that guitarists do. And violinists, we don't do that. We have our strings and their certain notes, and it would confuse me terribly if I had to change them to different tunings. So while Jeremy does that, I'm the one who gets to do the little commercial break. We have some CDs here, which you're very welcome to purchase from us afterwards. We have a CD which we recorded a couple of years ago of this exact show. It's pretty well everything you've heard tonight, a couple of extra tracks. And then on the far end we have a a CD of Jeremy's of songs, some by other people, some that he's written himself. And on the near end, we have one of my solo CDs with various guest artists doing a whole range of music, from classical to Led Zeppelin covers, all sorts of things on there. And I've just realised that we have got no clue what we're selling them for in Poland. We sell them for about £10 in the UK. I have no idea what it is in Shorty. Anyone? What's a good round number?
1 to 1.
So they're 20s. So you come and make us an offer afterwards. Are you okay to go? Thank you very much for listening, by the way. It's been a real pleasure being here today for the conference. And as Jeremy said, we have to rush off because actually in Ely in the UK tomorrow. But it's been really nice to come along tonight.
So we have by the way, the poems you just heard, one was a sonnet by E. Cummings called It May Not Always Be So, which I think still is my favorite poem in the world. The next one was called The Art of Losing Isn't Hard to Master by Liz. Thank you. And then I'm going to sing you a little song, and then we have a poem called A Blade of Grass by Brian Patton, and then we'll finish with a tiny little bit of Shakespeare. This is a love song, and I thought, because it's been somewhat mixed, our view of love, so I thought it'd be nice just to have a statement of pure love. A song from the 1930s, one of the most beautiful love songs ever written, I think. Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. Oh, but you're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you and the way you look tonight. Lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it, 'cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you. You ask for a poem. I offer you a blade of grass. You say it's not good enough. You ask for a poem. I say this blade of grass will do. It has dressed itself in frost. It's more immediate than any image of my making. You say it's not a poem. It's a blade of grass, and grass is not quite good enough. I offer you a blade of grass. You are indignant. You say it's too easy to offer grass. It's absurd. Anyone can offer a blade of grass. You ask for a poem. And so I write you a tragedy about how a blade of grass becomes more and more difficult to offer, and about how as you grow older, a blade of grass becomes more difficult to accept. Our revels now are ended. These are actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air, and like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on. And our little life is rounded with a sleep. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Stephen Bingham. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for being here. Thank you.